Hey, everybody, this is my good friend, Dr. Jeff Donatello. And if it's anybody's fault that I got into regenerative medicine, it's this guy's fault. Jeff and I have been friends for a long time. He's the clinical director of Center for Well. Where are you at in New Hampshire?
Center for Wellbeing in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, about an hour north of Boston.
Portsmouth, New Hampshire. You're on the coast, right?
Yeah, about a mile from the coast, which we can't go to right now in COVID-19 because they've deemed the coastline to be very dangerous. So nobody can walk on the beaches, and everyone's going crazy right now.
Yeah, you want to make sure you stay away from natural sunlight and fresh air, and those things must be horrible for you.
Yes.
So Jeff and I have been talking a little bit about the latest generation in regenerative medicine, and Jeff calls it the third generation of regenerative product. Let's talk about a little bit about where that came from, Jeff.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think we may have made it up. That's what happens when you're groundbreaking with what you do. You have to explain what we do. So I'll go back about 3 years ago. They started using cord blood from a donor, right? Healthy baby, healthy mom.
Right.
Donated placental tissue then showed up. The connective tissue that is in the Wharton's jelly, which is in the umbilical cord. So we went from first generation cord blood to using the blood that was derived from umbilical cord tissue. But we always knew that the stem cells, this is what we use, cord blood derived stem cells, Wharton's jelly derived stem cells. We always knew that when you injected the stem cells into you, well, we kind of learned this, that they had a life of about 2, 3, 4 days. And over that time, they're secreting what are called exosomes. And exosomes are microvesicles that have RNA. And what they do is they go in and they work to regenerate the tissue. They're the worker bees for the stem cells. The great thing about it is, so that's the third generation, exosomes. So not to confuse you, a scientist, a PhD, Dr. Ian White, he came up with a way to take the exosomes out of amniotic fluid. And so the product we used for the last year, third generation, are amniosomes. Those are exosomes from amniotic fluid. And the great thing about it is they're about 1/1000th the size of a stem cell. And we don't have DNA. There's no DNA, so there's no transference. That's the big thing. Do I get other people's DNA? And while we kind of poo-pooed it a little bit, you do. We found out now that you kind of do get their DNA. Not that that's bad or good, but a lot of people don't like it. They feel squeamish about it. You're not getting someone's diseases because we're testing heavily for that. But they're not live also. And that's the controversy amongst the stem cells. Are they live? Are they dead? Do they come back to life? And they do. There's a lot of die-off there, but these are not cells. They're acellular. They're microvesicles, and their goal is to spread out. So back to our original point, we'd inject stem cells, and we always knew we'd have 3, 4 days of secretions of exosomes telling your own stem cells to secrete more exosomes. And that's how you got better. That process occurred over time. So we would see over 2, 3, 4 weeks, people would start to feel better because of the anti-inflammatory effect. But then we would get the regenerative effect that would occur. I would say we initially would tell people up to a year. I don't know what you see, Brady, but I would say that most people at 4 to 6 weeks are about 4 to 6 months are about 80 to 90% better with that regenerative process.
Right.
And then you may get a little bit over the next 6 to 12 months, but most people are pretty well healed up, within 6 months.
Right. It's always fun to come across those folks that you saw, year and a half, 2 years, 3 years ago that are still doing really well.
Yeah.
So basically, I'm going to back it up a little bit, Jeff, and say, you're calling this a third generation product. In our clinic and the things that I put out there, I've actually called it a fourth generation product because I put PRP as the first generation because that's really where the regenerative process started. But that's just for my nomenclature. For you, though, first generation was your own stem cells, taking it out of your bone marrow. And for an old guy like you, we
all of 51.
Not even a smile, man.
A little bit.
So as you age, your own stem cells, the effectiveness of those stem cells die off. Then we found umbilical cord cells. That was the second generation. And now we're on to, basically, we've taken the parts of the stem cell that actually do the work, and we've like super concentrated them.
Yeah, exactly. Instead of using the bees, we use the honey. We use that a lot, right?
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
So results happen faster,
Yes.
and we're seeing long-term results from, and they're safer because of their size, and there's no cellular product, there's no DNA. We're just dealing with the RNA or the messenger RNA from these cells. So they're basically chemical signals that come from stem cells.
Yeah, absolutely. The proteins and the RNA, that's what they are. Pure, simple proteins and RNA.
That's awesome.
Yep. And their goal is to upregulate and downregulate genes to modify your immune system and to help your body recognize inflammation and heal, what needs to be healed. We always go back to, we were younger, we'd play football, and 17, 18, 19, I played a little bit in college, and we would sit there in Friendly's restaurant. I never forget it. After the game, sore, beat up, like we could barely walk. And, but come Monday, you forgot that you were even hit, right? Because we had all these exosomes that were being secreted by our stem cells throughout our body to heal. Nowadays, at age 51, not so much. I hurt this thumb mountain biking last year. The thing still hurts, because I've injected them. That's better, but it just takes time to heal the older you get.
Right. So last thing that we'll talk about, Jeff, we'll wrap it up. I'm going to ask you this. Do you still get people on your social media feeds asking you if these come from aborted fetal tissue?
We're not in the Bible Belt here. It's rare. I think other docs that I talk to get hit a lot more. I always use the word healthy baby, healthy mom, always.
Right. I get hammered with it.
Do you?
I do. And it never was the case. Like, they just really, if you look at the science behind it, the question is silly.
Well, this is what I would say to them. I would say in the George Bush administration, the reason he stopped it, that religious right, was because there was talk of aborted fetuses being used.
Right.
There was also talk about taking a sperm and egg and putting them together, and with no intention of ever making a baby, right? They go into a petri dish, and then we take the stem cells out. So for many people, that is an abortion, and I get that. So I think in the 80s, we were brainwashed or we were kind of it was miscommunicated that there was aborted fetuses.
Right.
And it's furthest from the truth.
All of that was used for research. It never was used for therapy.
Yes. Right. Exactly.
So there you go.
Yep.
All right, Jeff. Well, I appreciate your time this morning.
All right.
Yeah.
Me too. It's fun. Always fun to talk to you.
We'll do this again.
All right. Be good.